Yeah.
Is an awesome God he
Got 'em.
reigns from heaven above with wisdom, power, and love. Our God is an awesome God.
Let's go.
Hey friends, welcome. We're here for another episode of Chaotic Serenity. Thank you guys for joining me so much. So, what I want to talk to you guys about today is kind of a continuation of a story from a few episodes ago. So, a while back, I had told a story about a dog that I used to have, a dog named Sasha. So, if you guys have not watched that Chaotic Serenity episode yet, please go back and check it out because it's a really cool story and it kind of lays the groundwork for what I'm going to talk about today. So, just as a brief recap, I was going through kind of a challenging time in my life when this stray dog sort of showed up out of nowhere. And this dog won me over and won a place in my heart. And God used Sasha to teach me just so many principles and lessons in life and to illustrate so many things. And now looking back, now that I have an actual child, not just a fur baby, but I have a real child, I can see how God has taught me or could have taught me a lot of these same principles and things that he's tried to get through to me with the dog many years ago. I can see how he is kind of doing the same type of thing through my daughter, using her as kind of a teaching tool and to help me recognize certain things in my life. And anyways, point being is that you should be able to relate to this story if you've got kids or if you have got fur babies, I would like to think. So I want to talk about a story today that involves Sasha. So when I got Sasha, she was essentially living with me at my place with my two other dogs, okay? During this time, I had met Nicole, the woman who is now my wife, and once we got married, we combined households, and Nicole had a cat, and I had these three dogs. And so we kind of intermingled everything all at the same time. Now, thankfully, at this time, there weren't any children involved because that would have made things really hectic. But it was hectic enough with these animals, all these animals running around our relatively small home. So what we had to do is basically whenever we would leave to go to work, we had a dog door that I had put in. And one of the bedrooms in our home we used as kind of an office, but we didn't really use it too much. It had hardwood floors, and it had an exterior wall that kind of butted up towards the backyard. So I put in a dog door. What we would do is we would leave the dog door open so that the dogs could come and go as they pleased from our fenced-in backyard into this office room, right? But we didn't want the dogs to have the whole run of the house just because Sasha was, she liked to chew on stuff. Even after she should have grown out of that, she still liked to chew on stuff. So we also had some issues with the dogs acting up and wanting to choose to go potty in the house, even when they knew better. So anyways, long story short, point being is that the dogs did not have access to get out of this bedroom that we used as an office into the rest of the house, okay? So if the weather was bad, if it was hot, if it was rainy, they could come in through the dog door and hang out inside of the office, right? So Sasha ended up having what I'm going to call separation anxiety. Whenever I would leave, well, whenever we would leave, whenever Sasha would be home alone, but in particular, it was still a problem even before I moved in with Nicole after we got married. When I was still a bachelor, Sasha still exhibited some separation anxiety. So whenever I would leave and she would not be able to get to me, if there was a barrier of any kind in between her and me, whether it was a door or whatever, she would do anything in her power to break through that barrier. So what she was doing at the house that Nicole and I were living in after we got married is she would go up to the door that led from the office into the rest of the house, which was usually shut, and she would scratch and claw at the door and the hardwood floor, and she would actually tear it up. She was destroying the hardwood floor and she was destroying the door. So the only thing that, and I'm not a kennel or a crate type of a pet owner, especially for extended periods. That's not my style. I don't approve of that. I frown upon it, and I actually have a pretty big problem with it under normal circumstances. But in this case, she was just destroying our house, and I didn't know what else to do. Okay? So the temporary quick fix is we were going to get a crate that was large enough for her to be relatively comfortable in throughout the course of the day. And I was going to have to put her in the crate in the morning when I left for work. And then Nicole got home from work before me, so Nicole would be able to let her out when she got home, in most cases. So, as it turns out, Sasha was one of the smartest dogs I've ever owned. She was a husky mix. And this particular crate that we bought, it had 2 entries or exits, right? So it was kind of a rectangular shaped cube, average dog crate. On the end of it, there was a door. So there was like a little flip hinge pin thing up on the top and down on the bottom of the far end of the crate. So you could undo and flip the bottom one, undo and flip the top one, and then you could swing a door open over here on the side of the crate. And then on the long side of the crate, there was another door. So kind of here on the end, there was an opening, and there was also a potential door that could be opened here from, the wider broad side. And it had a similar locking mechanism. There was a little thing that you'd have to slide over and then flip down and it would lock. Another one you'd slide over, flip down, and lock. So it wasn't very long before Sasha started to figure out how to undo these latches and get out while we were gone. So Sasha would take her paw, presumably, I never saw it happen, but I don't know how she would do it. She would take her paw, flip the thing, and then bat it, until she was able to shimmy it over far enough on the top and the bottom of the crate door so that she could get it open. And when she did that, she proceeded to run around and tear up the office even more, right? So I get home from work and I see this and I'm like, what is going on? What am I supposed to do now? So I got some zip ties, the little plastic zip ties, and I decided the next day I was going to put her in there in the morning. We'd take her out, let her go to the bathroom in the morning, make sure she's got food, water, she's good to go, put her in her crate, and then I got some zip ties. And so where this little sliding mechanism thing was, once you slide it over and flip it down, it locks in place. If you flip it back up, then that kind of unlocks it so it can move again. So I flipped it down, and then I put a zip tie around it so that it couldn't be lifted up, right? So there was no way that she could slide it over, because in order to slide it over, you'd have to pop it up and then slide it over. So I go around and I zip tie all of these little various locations on all the doors of her crate. And as it would turn out, while we were gone, she ended up chewing through the zip ties so that she could flip the levers and open up the door to the crate and get out. Because when we got home, she was out of the crate and there were little chewed up zip tie particles laying all around on the floor, right? So that's a pretty incredible story, in my opinion, right? This dog, she was very, very smart. She was very, very determined. And I'm going to just pause right here for just a minute. I'm going to throw up a couple of pictures so that you guys can see what Sasha looked like. I would say it was probably a few days after I had found her, when she was astray in the neighborhood. So this picture right here, this is of when she was astray, and I had just lured her into my home and probably had her for just a couple of days before I took this picture. You notice she looks very skinny, she looks malnourished. The little tip of her ear appears to be missing, like it had gotten bit off or something. So she's always had a little chunk kind of missing from the tip of her ear. It's actually kind of cute. But yeah, that's what she looked like. And after we gave Sasha some TLC, some tender loving care, we sent her to a trainer, and Sasha went to go live with this trainer on her farm for a little over a month and went through a pretty intense training program to try to break some bad habits. And so this picture that I'm flashing up right now for you guys, This is a picture of Sasha from the farm when she was undergoing her training. So that's a night and day difference. Look at how beautiful she is, right? That is that's my baby girl. She's no longer with us. She has passed on, and she's in puppy heaven now. But that I've loved all of my dogs, but Sasha has always had a very special place in my heart. So, anyways, where I'm going with this story, how does this story relate to God? How does it relate to theology in any way? You know, I'm telling a story on the Living Room Church page about a dog chewing through zip ties, right? What does that have to do with Living Room Church, with Jesus, with anything? Okay, this is what I want you guys to see. Okay, this is what I want you to see. We're told to love the Lord with all of our mind, with all of our heart, with all of our spirit, with everything in us, right? There's this image, this idea that we are to do everything that we're capable of to try to nurture this relationship we have with the Lord, right? We're told to constantly be in the Word. We're told to pray unceasingly, right? There's so many places in the Bible that make it plain that it's not just about going to church on Sunday. You know, we need to have a desire and cultivate a desire, because that desire doesn't always come naturally. You know, sometimes there have been times where I've wanted to get closer to the Lord, but at the same time, I've had no motivation or real true desire to do it. You know, I kind of say to myself, well, it would be nice if I was closer to God, but I don't really feel like it. You know, like I don't feel like getting into the Word every day, and I don't feel like, you know, volunteering and getting involved in church with XYZ or, you know, whatever. But what I've found is that the more I spend time in the Word, the more desire I have to be in it. Okay? Now, where I'm going with this is to a certain extent, and I think to a large extent, we can control how close we are to the Lord. We can control the quality of that relationship. Now, I believe that we can only love God and we can only come to Jesus because God first loved us and God softened our hard hearts, right? But this is mainly a word for people who are currently believers, right? If you're a believer, if you're born again, we need to be constantly growing closer to the Lord. And this whole situation with Sasha illustrated that to me, right? Sasha could not stand to be away from me. She couldn't. She would go through heck or high water to do anything within her power. She would scratch on the hardwood floor until her paws were bleeding. You know, we would come home and the door and the floor would be scratched up and there would be blood on it, right? This dog literally went through blood, sweat, and tears in her effort to try to get back in my presence, to get close to me. She did not like being separated from me, right? And then when we put her in the crate, she didn't let that crate stop her. She figured out how to flip the levers and open up the door to get out of the crate. I can't get over that. That still kind of boggles my mind. But then when we zip tied the latches shut, and this dog was so smart and so determined that she figured out how to chew off the zip ties and then flip the latches. My overarching point and theme here is she was so determined that she was going to do anything she could to get close to me, right? And what the Lord said to me in that moment, when I was contemplating this back when it happened, is, you know, God said, Adam, if only you chased after me like Sasha tries to get close to you, if only you made that kind of attempt and effort to get close to me the way Sasha tries to get close to you. Adam, if you even put forth half that much effort to get close to me, our relationship would be flourishing so much more than what it is. And so that whole situation with Sasha, God just used to paint a beautiful mental picture for me of the truth and the reality that oftentimes we can neglect our relationship with the Lord, and I believe that we are neglecting it by not actively pursuing it. And I've mentioned this before. I don't remember if it was in a daily dose or if it was in a chaotic serenity, but I think that our relationship with God is a lot like riding a bike uphill, right? Pursuing holiness and getting closer to the Lord, and moving away from sin, and working on devotions and prayer and serving. It's a lot of hard work, right? I would say it's impossible work apart from the Holy Spirit and His enabling, right? But it's hard work. It's not easy. It's like riding a bike uphill. It's sometimes they're easier than others, but it's still a constant. You got to keep working at it. And the minute you stop pedaling that bike that you're going uphill with, you're going to start going the other direction. You're not just going to sit there and stop and just remain stagnant, right? If you're pedaling a bike uphill, you're either going to be pedaling and going uphill, or the minute you stop, it's going to slide way back in the other direction, and it's going to be a problem, right? So I think that the life of a believer is like that. I think that I used to have the perception that, okay, well, I'm a Christian, I'm a believer, I've worked on certain things, certain sins in my life, and I'm to a point now where I can just kick on autopilot and just kind of just go through the norm, not try to grow, not try to expand, just sit pretty and comfortable where I am. I'm okay with the situation, right? I've said that before. And this situation with Sasha just kind of showed me that, Adam, you shouldn't be okay with the situation. You should desire more of me and more of me and more of me and more of me, because you'll never be able to get enough to even fully comprehend me and comprehend my love for you. That's what I heard God say, not literally, but figuratively. So that's all I've got for today, guys, is the story about my baby girl Sasha. And God used her to be such a blessing to me. And I miss her so much. She was so special. She was my gift from the Lord. Well, the Lord has given me many gifts. My wife, my daughter, but Sasha was the first thing that I believe God really gave me as a gift and used in such a powerful way. So I thank you guys for letting me share a little bit more of my walk with God and a dog named Sasha. I've got a few more stories that I can share with you guys, but that's it for right now. We'll just leave it there. So thank you guys so much for just coming and joining me, whether it's for the Daily Dose or Chaotic Serenity, or just even checking out Living Room Church worship services. I appreciate you guys so much, because it is because of you guys that we're able to do what we do. That's why we do what we do here at Living Room Church, is to bring the word to the people that haven't heard it, and to try to bring encouragement to the people that have heard the word and that are believers. So thank you guys for taking this little trip down memory lane with me today. And until we meet again, deuces.